And welcome back to the tiebreak of the World Chess Championship in Moscow. The second rapid game has just started with some quick opening moves.
This is very interesting because we're seeing the exact repeat of game 10. I'm sorry it's not on the board yet, but you can see from the screen that this is exactly what happened in game 10, and now Vishy plays d4. The move we mentioned on the air, actually, during game 10. Let me just see if I can find where moves are. Anyway, we'll do it manually then for now. This has been the same Sicilian Vishy played in the last two games of the match. And in a position after bishop b5, e6, bishop c6, bc6, he went not d3 like in game 12, but b3, to which Boris replied e5, knight e5, queen e7, and Boris played d4. And after d6, he took on c6. We had this position on the board when we were discussing game 10, I remember that distinctly. This is a very interesting position, and during the game, we thought black can play queen e4. Let's put this on the board. Queen e4, queen e2, takes, and in this position, perhaps bishop b7, d5, and for instance, king d7. And he will win the pawn back and be, well, his position will be reasonable, although you can argue that after the possible, let's say, c4, takes everything on c6 and knight c3, White has a slight advantage, not something spectacular, but still, you know, a mild edge.
Also, queen e4 and queen e2, an exchange has been played.
Yeah, we're waiting for the move, and bishop b7, I think d5. It's all on the board.
Yeah.
Let's just wait for the robot to catch up, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, and the interesting thing will be to find out what Anand has been looking at, why he thinks that this is a promising choice for White, or do you think he's mainly playing it because he thinks it's a safe way to prod for a bit?
Well, the end game I had just shown on the board. I'm sorry for the cough. Is well, pleasant for White, I think. If that's the best black has here, if after bishop b7,
that's what he
okay. I'm being proven wrong once again. After bishop b7, he played knight a5, not d5. This is very interesting now, because after d5, I thought it is possible White is slightly better, but it's not more than that. Knight a5 is a proper winning attempt in that, you know, it's very principled, and it allows black to keep the bishops, but the position becomes very, very sharp. You have to take on g2 here. I mean, if you don't take on g2, you're just a pawn down for absolutely nothing. So bishop g2 will be played, and after rook g1, you have to find a square for the bishop.
And I think we can safely assume from the speed with which Boris also played his move. I mean, this is what both teams have been looking at.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if this was news to either of them.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's not news for Vishy.
No.
Because, I mean, he was the one picking this line quite clearly.
Yes.
He was the one doing the choosing.
Yeah.
But also Boris seems to be well aware of what's going on. So
yeah.
But this is very, very interesting. I think the critical thing to discuss here is whether it's possible to play bishop b4. Because you would like to keep the bishop on the long diagonal, ideally, but it gets hit there once again, and you have to be prepared to play the position. Let's say after knight c3. Let me just show this. Yeah, something like bishop before knight c3, bishop c2, and some move like either bishop f4 or bishop e3. And it becomes very, very sharp and potentially very dangerous for black, because I mean, he's hugely underdeveloped here. I'm stating the obvious, but still, he's seriously behind in development.
Yeah, his entire king side is still...
despite the fact that there are no kings on the board, queens on the board, his king could get, you know, I mean, in a position like, for instance, something like knight f6, rook c1, bishop g6, and something like dc5, knight b5. This is a huge attack.
Yeah, your king doesn't feel very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean,
there.
queens or no queens, this is a huge attack on the king. This is not. This is, yeah, and he has played bishop h3, which is a safe option, but it doesn't attack c2, and it gives white a wider choice of options, because now he can play a quieter move here, so to speak.
Yeah.
Something like bishop e3, or once again knight c3 still looks fine. No, but this is exciting, because it's a d takes c5 here. I thought, I mean, so from a structural point of view, this capture favors white a lot, but I thought maybe he can keep the pressure for a bit.
And you get the feeling from watching Boris that, I mean, he realizes he finds himself in a piece of preparation.
And this is not very comfortable for black, because he understands that Vichy will be playing sort of a tempo, so to speak, for a while yet.
And even if he himself has looked at this with his team, it seems as if Anand's team has looked at this more.
You would assume so, judging by the speed and the general look of comfort.
Exactly. Well, one of the things I mentioned during the first game, Peter, was that 2 of the seconds of each team were allowed to be backstage and to consult, well, that the players can consult with. Now find out that apart from Peter Heine Nielsen, who we expected to be there for Anand, the other player is Rustam Kazimjanov.
That would be my thought, I would name him as a second person, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and also Anand's wife, Aruna, she's also backstage, so they are there to support him psychologically and technically.
And for Boris, it's probably Elianov and Husman.
Husman would, I don't know, but that would be my guess too.
Yeah, and knight c3. Yeah, this is what I expected. Now black needs to start developing in a hurry.
Yeah,
because he is quite seriously behind, and well, the long castle comes to mind first. Obviously, this is the move that you generally want to make here, because well, it brings the rook into play. It solves the problem of what to do with the king, and it sort of passes the baton to white as to what I mean. The next big decision might be white's there. Yeah. Something like bishop f4 is possible, bishop b3 is possible, sort of eyeing the c5 pawn for the future, and even something like knight b5 I don't much like, although it's not entirely pointless as well. But I think it will be a bishop move somewhere.
Yeah. Is it also about the safety of the kings? I mean, white's king looks in the open, but in fact it looks pretty safe. And
yeah, it's
well, is black's king more exposed than white's in this position?
On e8, yes. On c8, not so much. I think black needs the castle. Yeah. And also, I mean, if black manages to get all of his pieces out, the king on e2, or even perhaps if white plays, let's say, f3 and king f2, which is the likeliest way of making it safer.
Yeah.
Even there, if black manages to bring the knight and the bishop out and the second rook to e8, it will not be entirely safe. But yeah, I mean, it's very much in a sharp endgame like this. It's very much about the safety of the king.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most important factor.
Or the activity of the king.
Yeah. No, that a bit too early for that. There are way too many pieces on the board for the kings to become active.
That would be like walking into a minefield.
Yeah, that would be suicidal a bit.
Yeah.
So, no, I expect, I mean, Boris can't really be playing too fast here unless he suddenly remembers what his notes say. So he will think for a bit, but I still expect long castle.
Yeah, because he has a very important decision to take here.
No, but in a position like this, especially in a rapid match, faced with obvious preparation, I think you need to take a conscious decision not to play too slowly, because you are unlikely to figure it out at the board.
In fact, the same situation that we saw in the classical games, where you were slightly critical of Boris's, well, abundant use of time.
Yeah, I think you need to take some decisions, sort of by play with the hand, so to speak. If this were a blitz game, the king would already be on c8.
Exactly.
And
you briefly check if there's any immediate. Well,
yeah, you need to check if it loses.
Yeah.
But once you decide it doesn't,
then go for it.
Yeah, just castle and see, because you know, as the saying goes, castle cannot be a bad move, it can only be untimely. So...
Who came up with that?
can't remember, but I mean, it's
A wise guy.
yeah, some wise dude.
Yeah.
So perhaps, you know, from a purely mathematical point of view, some developing move like knight f6 before castling could potentially be stronger and more precise, although I wouldn't know why. But,
I mean,
generally speaking, you need to castle.
You'd have to find a point for that.
Yeah, and you need to castle. I mean, perhaps black, you know, in an ideal world, would prefer to castle kingside. But seriously, with a rook on g1, you would have to make a lot of preparations for that,
Yes,
and
yes.
you just will not have the time.
No.
So, well, a possible plan could be something like f6 and king f7. But once again, it's a question of do you feel you have the time for that? Do you feel you will be able to? Let's just.
Or do you feel you have the time to find out all that? Yeah.
That as well, yeah. But also, let's say f6, king f7. The king is now very safe, and it's important to note that white can't enter with the rooks because d7 is covered very well by the bishop on h3. But what's your next move? You can't go knight e7 because c5 is hanging. You can't really go bishop d6 because it will get attacked from c4, and also white probably will occupy the d file anyway.
Yeah.
And now you're a bit stuck looking for your next move.
Yeah.
I mean, the king looks very safe on f7. If you imagine, you know, in this position, black managing to put the knight on f5 and white not winning any material, black is doing excellently well.
Yeah.
But it's some moves away. So.
Is this what seems to be the advantage of white, that there's many moves he can make with tempo and
that, and also, I mean, he's ahead in development. He's in a position we have right now. He has more pieces out. His position is more active. He has more options.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's much easier to play with white, frankly, because as you correctly pointed out, you know, he has moves he can make without, you know, fearing they are sort of conceptually wrong, whereas black will need to take very important decisions on where pieces must be developed, and you know, he can actually go wrong with those. Yeah, long castle.
Okay.
Somewhat slower than I expected, but still.
Yeah.
But the most natural move, either bishop b3 or bishop f4. I think I'll use the move here. I would probably lean towards bishop b3. Because I think the play against the c5 pawn is very much on the menu. But bishop f4 has an important point. It creates a serious threat of knight b5. I think something like knight f6, knight b5 is now potentially a problem for black very much. Very much so. Like rook d7, rook d1, for instance, and the pawn on a7. The pawn on a7 is becoming a worry. So, yeah, bishop f4.
He likes that.
Bishop f4. Now, Vish is clearly still in preparation, so you know, he knows whereas we're only guessing.
Yeah, he looks calm. And Boris is once again, well, he looks nervous because he's once again left the stage, and
well, leaving the stage is not necessarily nerves. I mean,
if you go to the toilet often, it might be nerves.
Well, we're just assuming that's where he's going. I think he might.
Well, he's not going for a smoke.
No, but he might just be sort of leaving the stage for, you know, for a brief, quiet think in, you know, in the.
Yeah, and you mean ever since the list, I mean, toilet talks are not a very popular topic.
No, and also, I mean, I like to stretch my legs during rapid games as well, and I don't, just generally get up and, you know, walk for 20 seconds.
So probably you would even get up during a blitz game, or?
No, I don't think I've ever done that. No.
But during a rapid game, you?
Yeah, I generally do.
Yeah.
Let's say
because you feel more comfortable then.
Yeah, I feel, you know, I'm sticking to my normal routine. You know, at least you know, once during a rapid game, if I get up and I just, you know, especially let's say because these days I play rapid mainly during the World Cups, and there are other games to watch. I'm not the only one on the stage playing.
Yeah. So you get up to do some multitasking.
it helps me feel, everything is, the world is as it should be.
Yeah, yeah.
If I get up, take like 5 seconds to look at the other games, and I sit back down. But anyway.
Well, Boris has also returned to his routine.
Yeah,
he came back, picked up a piece.
Yeah, he took about 15 seconds, so I think it's just he takes a break to just walk and clear his head a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and as we know by now, that he likes to play with a piece that has already disappeared from the board under the table. He's been doing that for all his life, as far as we know.
Yeah, that's one of his
Some
most recognizable sort of little quirks.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody told me a funny story that he was once in a time trouble phase where he had also picked a piece, and then the moment his opponent made a move, he in fact wanted to make a move, but then he realized that maybe it wasn't allowed to do that with a piece in your hand. So he threw up, he threw it in the air,
made a move,
and caught it.
That would be pretty awesome. I would have liked to see that. That's a good story. I don't know if it's true or not, but even if it isn't, it's still a good story.
We're not going to check this story. I mean, we just keep it and hope that it's true. He was playing Tamas Gergatse. That was the story. So there is some details there.
No, I can't rule that out at all. I think it's possible.
Yeah, but maybe we shouldn't ask Boris, because probably
if he wins, we can ask him whatever.
That's true.
If he wins today, that would be the time to get in all the questions you always wanted to ask Boris, but never had the courage to.
Yeah.
So I wonder what the time situation is. It says on play chess that Vishy is pretty much still in accumulation phase, whereas Boris is down to 13 minutes, and it sounds about right. It may be off by half a minute or so, but I think from the general speed.
These are annoying moves to play against, right? Bishop f4. I mean, there's not a concrete, but there's something in the air.
You get basically you get a small question every move. You get asked something every move in this position, and it's.
And even if you don't see it, it's very easy to imagine that you may make a huge blunder with your next move.
It's a position in which you never feel entirely settled. You feel, something bad might happen if I make a mistake here.
Yeah, and the white pieces are happily hopping towards your king.
Yeah, and I mean, from a purely psychological point of view, he would prefer to see bishop b3 much more than bishop f4, because bishop b3 is a more positional choice, and bishop f4 is saying, I'm going to be playing for, direct attack in the next future. So
and you're also asking yourself, what was wrong with bishop b3? Why didn't you play bishop b3? Why do you put it on f4? Is that better?
No, I think his that's not an ideal situation to find yourself in when you're playing Vishy. Seriously below on time, and in a position where you're just working stuff out, whereas Vishy seems to know, and a position in which the price of the move is potentially very, very high. So, and he of course realizes all that, as you can see. I mean, he is a picture of concentration, and he knows he needs to be at his best here.
Yeah.
Bishop d6. I've been thinking about this for the past 5 minutes, but I can't really understand. Basically, this is a pawn sacrifice. White can take on g7. And now black needs to find something concrete very, very fast, because if, let's say, if white consolidates here in some way, then, as I said, he's just a pawn up for not very much, and should be, well, it's a technical task. Whether it's a simple technical task or not is, debatable, but still, it's going to be just a question of whether Vishy can convert an obvious advantage. So you need to come up with some move here, and I've been looking at something like knight f6, trying to exploit the fact that the king is a bit unsafe now. And white would ideally want to do something like f3, king f2, but then rook d2 check comes. So white has two options here, either knight c4, rook e8, and knight e3. swinging the knight over and using it to cover the e-file and to make e2 much safer for the king. Or he could just bite the bullet and take on f7. And after rook e8 check, just to go king f3. And if you go bishop g4 check, I can go to g2 or g3, it doesn't really matter. And it looks scary a little bit for white, but in the 5 minutes I've been sort of considering this on and off in my head. I can't find the refutation.
Yeah.
And if there is no refutation, this is 2 pawns up.
Yeah.
And you know, once the dust settles and white, let's say, brings the knight over to e3 once again, this will just be winning. I mean, rook f7, you can play something else, but rook f7 is an attempt to just settle the game there and then.
Yeah.
Black could go, let's say, knight to h6 here. But another option actually for white, now that I thought about this, white could play rook g3 and meet rook e8 with not knight e3 but rook e3. This is also a possibility. So it's very interesting to see how
might you get in?
How Vishy will react to this, because he has many options here. Well, he will start by taking on d6, I'm fairly sure, because if you don't, it gives black an all-important tempo to do something. So bishop d6, rook d6, and now the big question. There's also actually rook g5. Now that I think about it, this actually allows rook g5 now, which could be very, very unpleasant actually for black.
Because you...
Well, I want to take on c5 with a check.
Yeah, and you cannot defend the pawn.
Yeah, and the pawn, well, you can play f5, but then all the moves all the lines we were just showing will be just so much worse, because on, on g7 the rook will also be threatening a7.
Exactly, everything will drop off there.
Yeah, I mean,
this looks like a...
Yeah, now let's wait for Vishy to make a decision, because I think he has a huge choice here. He has two moves which are both very, very strong. And also even something like knight c4 here is not that bad, because let's say knight c4, rook e6 check, and some move like knight e3, for instance. g7 is still hanging. Rook g5 remains a huge threat. This is not sorry. This is not very nice for black. But yeah, rook g5. Rook g5 is very, very attractive.
And very, very unpleasant for black.
Yeah, this is you know, you would feel I might be winning here. If you're white here, you feel, you know, this might actually be very close to winning, not better. Just sort of very close to game over, if black doesn't come up with something spectacular, and I don't see what that is, at least not yet.
That's amazing how quickly we have ended up in this position. I mean, this looks like good homework.
Yeah, Vishy has 21 minutes left, so he has.
And there he goes. Yes.
He has plenty of time to consider, but he doesn't really need to, because I mean, rook g5 feels the right move. Yeah. Because I mean, g7 pawn is important, but if you take on c5 with check, you would prefer to take on c5 with check. Yeah, because of the two options.
I mean, just swap all the pieces, and it's easy to see why this is so good.
Yeah. I mean, of the two options available to him, black, I think, I mean, f5 is just unbelievably ugly. I mean, I would still go knight f6 here. I would go knight f6, rook c5, king b8, and hope you can find some counterplay here. At least, you know, the structure is somewhat unbalanced, and you know, you have the bishop, and maybe in some position you can get some play against the weakened king side if you don't get mated on the queen side first. But I mean, the objective assessment of this position cannot be in doubt. Yeah. White is much better.
So it looks as if the challenger is once again in trouble. In the first game, he managed to extricate himself from the problems he got himself into. But will he do that again? And to me, this looks tougher.
Yeah, this looks very, very unpleasant. Yeah, I think. Yeah, he played knight f6. Yeah, as expected, he played knight f6, and
well, there's no real reason not to take, I guess.
No, I mean, having played rook g5, if you know don't there, if you don't take it, it just looks weird. Yeah, king b8. Yeah. Well, now it is a technical task. Now Vishy needs to figure out how to minimize the counterplay, make his king safe. First and foremost, he needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what we have on the board. He needs to find a precise move here. I mean, he has knight c4, e3 as an option once again. He has rook g1, rook e8 check, king f3, just taking the g file under control, so there are no checks on g4 anywhere. Which I think perhaps is the best move here. At least that's the one I like the most.
Which one?
Just go rook g1 here. That would be, I think,
activate
my
another
preferred
piece.
solution. But I think he is about to go knight c4, which is also fine. Nothing wrong with knight c4.
Yeah, because the knight will be nicely positioned there. You question.
Although here, I mean, it's very important for black to start with bishop g4 check, and then maybe he's not doing that badly because it forces f3, and only then you go rook e8 check. It forces king f2, rook g2 check, and the king ends up on g3, and that's not ideal. So I think maybe the better way would be to start with knight c4, because this is very important. It covers d2. So now, if we're in time to go f3, king f2, we will be almost winning. So bishop g4 check is no longer an option. You have to start with rook e8, king f3. And now if bishop g4 check, I just go to g2. And the knights just cover so many squares that you can't really, the rook has no squares from which to cause any kind of problems.
Yeah.
And then I will just go something like still maybe f3 or h3, driving the bishop away and put the knight on e3 and start consolidating.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, there still will be problems to work out for white. It's not a position you will win every time. But I mean, white is much better here, obviously.
Why it's very comfortable, and.
But once again, I mean, he is shifting in his seat. He is sort of trying to calm his nerves. I think the gulp of water and the rest of it is mainly aimed at settling the nerves and making himself not play very fast, because he feels it in, you know, close to his fingertips. You know, it's almost there. You know,
and he also realizes that if I once again let it slip, I mean, then
he really should not.
Which position am I going to win?
Yeah, there is this feeling. Yeah, if you don't win game one, and then you get a position like this with white, and you don't win this either,
then
you really begin feeling, you know, this may not be my day.
Yeah,
and you don't want that. Yeah, rook e8, king f3 will follow very fast. Because obviously knight e3 and something like knight g4, bishop g4 check, f3, rook e6 is not very good.
Yeah.
I think the whole point is to go king f3 here.
Yeah. And it's also this popular football analogy that we have in chess. That if you have the initiative but you don't score, then you can just wait for your opponent to score.
Yeah, generally this happens a lot. Yeah. If you fail to convert an opportunity after he does go knight e3. I'm slightly surprised because I thought this allowed additional options for black, like well, knight g4 being the major one. But
and you also thought that, well, what's wrong with the knight on c4?
No, I thought king f3, I mean, I like the knight on e3, but I thought we can win another tempo by playing king f3 and forcing black to play some move rook somewhere, and then we can do something else.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is still fine, but I'm slightly surprised he didn't play king f3 first. Well, as I said, I mean, the first move that comes to mind here is knight g4. Black wants to go knight e3, bishop g4 check, after which he will probably be just fine. And but I guess the point is white has, I forgot white has rook g1 here. I was wrong about this particular option, because this seems to be fine for white. More than fine, this seems to be very good for white. So black needs to find something here. Once again, if you let white consolidate here, and let's say allowing rook g1 already counts as letting white consolidate pretty much, you're going to be close to lost. Boris needs to come up with something now. There's really no time to waste here.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a pawn down in a position where conversion will not be incredibly difficult if white manages, let's say, to get some pieces off or to bring the second rook into play. One option is bishop g4 check, and if you f3, I think rook d6. Although it has to be pointed out that knight cg1, I mean, it looks ugly, but everything is under control. So even this is possible for white. He does play knight g4. Anyway.
Knight g4 is gone.
But I'll just briefly point out that after bishop g4, white can play king f1 maybe. Although after bishop h3, I really wouldn't want to put it on g1, so maybe bishop g4 was a better choice. But anyway, knight g4. I expect to see rook g1 here.
Yeah.
I expect to see rook g1 here. First and foremost, because I mean, apart from the threat of knight takes e3, black also wants to just take on h2, and you need to do something about that. You can't ignore that. And although maybe because our Russian commentators for some reason think he played knight h5, which I didn't even consider. The move exists, but it's not what he played. And I briefly panicked and started looking at the screen, seeing where the knight is, but the knight is on g4, so it's... So, and even after rook g1, black can still take on h2, surprisingly. It becomes very, very concrete, because, for instance, I'm not sure, maybe white can even take on g7, bishop g4, check, king e1. But this now becomes, calculatable, so to speak. Let's say knight f3 check, king f1, bishop h3 check, king e2, knight d4 check, and well, maybe black is just fine because there are no good squares for the king at all.
Yeah, this is probably
king
not what
e1
you
knight.
want.
Yeah, this is not what you want. So after king knight h2, white will need to come up with something else. This is interesting. Yeah, and this is also why I was so convinced after rook e8, king f3 is the best move. This is surprising to me, frankly.
And Boris seems to realize that he's still alive.
Yeah, I think we should play knight cd5 here. This is very interesting. Knight h2 is still an option, but it's no longer so great because the d file is available to the king. So something like rook h1, bishop g4 check, king f3 will be very good probably.
Yeah.
So I think black needs to play f5 here. But we'll see what happens. Black needs to start and continue developing some kind of initiative on the king side. And actually f5 looks very, very natural. I'll be surprised if Boris doesn't play it because it looks like, the most obvious decision here.
But you have the feeling that black is getting more out of this position than he should have had.
I think he had more.
It's messier than it could have been.
I think, and this is a very, very good word you just used. I think when you have a position like this with white, your principal aim and something you take the most pains to avoid is a mess.
Yeah.
You want this as clear-cut,
as boring,
as technical as possible.
Yeah.
And once the pieces start jumping, you feel like you've let at least some of the advantage slip. Although, I mean, Vishy is very good at short tactics, and you would take him over anyone to be able to calculate what's going on and to react precisely to whatever life throws at him. But in general, in terms simply of minimization of mess, I thought king f3 was better than knight e3.
Yeah.
But still, this is a very principled reply, and this is still a very principled reply, and a very interesting line. He played knight takes e3. This is strange, But I mean, it's still a possibility. I've been looking at this, at taking on e3, knight takes e3, and f5 now. But something like king of 3, I think, just stops it. So I wonder what the plan is. And also fe3 is not ridiculous here, although fe3 allows a lot of play against the h2 pawn. So, I mean, if at all possible, Vichy would prefer to take with a knight. Because then you keep the fifth under control. The rook on c5, you know, is kept in play. Yeah, he took on e3. Now I think it's a choice between f5 and bishop g4 check. But bishop g4 check, white will, I think, play f3, and after rook d6, he has rook c3. Yeah, he did play bishop g4 check. Yeah, I expect to see f3, because after king, let's say king f1, black doesn't play bishop f3, of course. Black gives another check, and you can't really play king g1 h1. You never want the king in the center, in the corner with the bishop on h3. So white will have to go back to the e file, achieving nothing. So I think the point is white can play f3, and as I said, after rook d6, he has rook c3, and the bishop will have to go somewhere, and then the white can play king f2.
He's played f3.
Yeah, he's played f3. I would be shocked if he didn't. And apparently after f3, this is great. This is I'm very, very impressed with Boris. Bishop c8 here, and this is incredibly impressive defense. I must say, I'm very seriously in awe of this. This creates a huge threat of bishop a6, check c4, rook d6, winning a piece. There is also a problem because rook h6 is now a huge problem on every move. You constantly have to consider rook h6 attacking h2. And
yeah, this looks very strong, doesn't it?
I think, yeah, Vichy must have missed bishop c8, and now suddenly it looks as if black might be fine.
That would be a blow for Vichy. I mean, having two such positions and getting
winning none of them. Yeah, that would be a huge blow. Yeah, it was very important to get the bishop to diagonals where he can be always, it can be active at all points, because as I mentioned, after rook d6, rook c3, the bishop would have to go to a bad square, like, I mean, h3 where it does nothing, or f5 where it will get attacked after king f2 yet again.
Yeah.
And on c8, white cannot touch it. The h file is free for the rook to constantly harass the pawn on h2. And also, having played f3, you know, Vichy constantly has to worry about this knight.
Yeah.
The knight on e3 just comes under immediate attack in every single line.
And he's looking at the board like, what is going on? I mean,
yeah, he is thrown by this, and who wouldn't be? I think, I mean, I can't really find any move apart from rook e1 here. I think rook e1 should be best, and then black can just play rook h6, rook h1. And then some move here. Perhaps even play back to d6. And white is just so discoordinated that maybe he has to play rook e1 again. I am very, very impressed with this. You know, and Boris was down on time as well. He found this on maybe 5 minutes. This is incredibly resourceful defense.
I mean, is this perhaps the conclusion we should draw, that, well, Vichy, he gets two winning positions, but that, in fact, Boris is playing better?
Well, in game one, it wasn't really a theoretical competition. In game one, Vichy solved the problems, and then Boris played a4. So you can't say he outplayed Vichy in game one after getting a bad position out of the opening. His bad position was the result of his own mistake. But in this game,
where he was put to the test, I mean, he is playing better.
In this game, he found decisions which inconvenienced Vichy the most. I think this is how you would describe it.
While Vichy, well, absolutely didn't make the most of the chance that he got,
Yeah, I
that
think,
he created himself or that his team created.
No, I think you know, if this ends like we now think it will end, yeah, this will be a bit of a body blow for Vishy, because really he would be, you know, in a match like this, if you get a position this good with the time advantage that he had, you expect to convert this. You think, you know.
It's not only a white that you're spoiling, but it's
white,
it's a novelty that you're spoiling.
Yeah, white is not that important. I mean, of course, I mean you want to put more pressure with white, but yeah, as you correctly say, it's just that you feel that you finally caught him. You finally showed something he was not prepared for,
and even that doesn't work.
Yeah, and even that only brings you half a point. Yeah, that does not feel good.
No. And then also knowing that
Rookie one has been played since.
How Boris has thrived in mounting tensions situations in the World Cup and in the candidates matches.
Yes, this goes back to the point we were making all along, that Boris is a big match player. I mean, his career over the past 5 years has been, you know, a sequence of awesome performances under immense pressure. Performances, frankly, many people unjustly do not expect from him.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it yet again.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's still possible to go wrong. It's still possible to make a mistake here and not save this game. But we're assuming Rook H6, which
it
will
looks
not
as
play.
if he is fully in control now.
Yeah. After Rook H1, he will need to find one last precise move, which is, I don't know. I quite like Rook D6, but there may be something better. And then yeah, he will have saved a second incredibly difficult game, and that will give him a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and let's not forget that this is not a situation where Vishy can go to his hotel and have 24 hours to think how to recover. I mean, 10 minutes from now, the next. Yeah.
No, I think he went Rook. Yeah, he went Rook E6. He didn't go Rook D6, and this is now slightly different. He went Rook H E6, Rook C3 F5. This is very, very sharp. This is very, very sharp, and yeah, now White needs to start running. White needs to start running towards the king side. King G2 F4 and put the knight somewhere. C5, I guess. C4, I guess. And at least he manages to unpin himself. But his king side now is very, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And Black is probably still fine. But the point I want to make is that Rook D6 perhaps just saves the game on the spot, because it cuts off the D file and White cannot really progress anywhere. But from the human perspective, it's very difficult to just play Rook D6 saying, you know, I may not be threatening much, but you have no moves. And Rook E6 is very, very natural. So we have now on the board the position after, and Vishy played Knight D5, I think. This is very interesting. This, once again, this is a very principled move. This is, because this allows something like Rook D6, Rook D3, Bishop F5, Rook D4, Bishop E6, let's say C4, and Bishop takes D5. And this Rook endgame is probably a draw.
Yeah.
So, because CD5, let's say Rook E5. He doesn't even go for that. I think, you know, I have a feeling he feels he can be playing for a win here.
So, yeah, I think suddenly Boris looks very confident.
Yeah, he looks very interested in this position, because I think he realizes that you know, Vishy is not playing his optimal best here.
Yeah.
And also, you know, despite being a pawn down, if the king side starts collapsing here, if Black gets to, let's say, the F3 pawn, he just wins. If somehow F3 pawn falls, game will finish in 5 moves.
Yeah.
So, and White is still very, very far away from any kind of avalanche on the queen side. I mean, the pawns, White does have 3 against 1 on the queen side, but those are on C2 and B3.
And
they are not really.
In the meantime, we can watch his wonderful bishop
Bishop technique, yeah.
Bishop technique.
Yeah, but no, but this is a very interesting sort of mini spot in the game where I'm sure he realized rook d6 is almost an immediate draw. He just went g5 without thinking because he feels he's just not worse and why not play on.
Put some extra pressure.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I mean, I think Vishy played rook d3, and now, for instance, you can go rook e2 check, king anywhere, and bishop f5. And if white plays rook d2, then you can go rook d8 and once again transpose into a probably drawn rook endgame. Apologies for the persistent cough.
And Vishy will be, well, except for the fact that I've never heard him curse, but he will cursing himself.
I have.
Yeah, you heard him.
I have. Yeah, Vishy will be, I think, intensely uncomfortable here. Because, you know, I think the most obvious feeling he will have in this position is, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
You know, playing an incredibly unclear endgame, which I might conceivably even lose.
I should be sipping a tea, being 1 point up.
Yeah, you know, game should be over, and I shouldn't even have had to worry. Actually, rook f2 is very sensible here. Talking about attacking f3, rook f2 is very, very interesting here, I think. Planning bishop f5, and then, you know, trying to just collect. Yeah, I think he played rook f2. I think he played rook f2, yeah. Yeah. No, but this is, yeah, Vishy will just feel, you know, what is happening? h4, I think he played, judging by the, yeah, he played h4.
h4.
And now, yeah, rook e2, for instance. This is becoming, I mean, this is becoming very, very sharp. And black is, I think, never worse here. Something like, you know, knight before a5 is trouble. Ah, no. Yeah, he can play knight before, it's important. Because if a5, the knight is just in time to transpose to d4. This is a big point. Because if in this position white has to play rook c3, then even bishop b7 is a move. And once again, you have to make a very, very unpleasant decision what to do with the, you know, the potential fall of the pawn on f3.
Yeah.
No, this is now incredibly sharp, and really all three results are possible.
Of course, there's still the slight time advantage that.
Yes, no.
Has.
I think this is what Vishy is now mainly banking on. His 10 against 3 or whatever it is advantage here.
Yeah.
I can't see. It says 8 against
No,
140, but that's probably wrong.
Off, yeah.
That's probably wrong. I mean, bishop f5, rook 3, g2 it could still be a draw, but there you either have to trade one piece or you have to vacate the second.
Or bishop b7, perhaps, just to.
An immediate bishop b7. Yeah, it's a possibility, but why not start with rook e2 if you can? No, but I think critical is rook e2 knight b4, and now black needs to find a move. But maybe we can play, yeah, maybe the point is black can play bishop b7 here. And if white takes on g5, you play a5 in this position. And now you will take on c2 with check. And generally speaking, well, I mean, the moment you start taking the pawns on the second rank with check, you're not doing that badly.
No.
That would be, you know, a general rule of thumb which applies in most cases. You know, the moment you start collecting the second rank pawn with checks, you are doing something right in the game. So, yeah, it's very, very intriguing, the whole thing. But I mean, it's a very, very big decision for Boris here. He has at least 3 very decent candidates: bishop f5, rook e2.
But he's down to 44 seconds, Peter.
So 10 against 40 seconds this changes a lot.
This is no fun.
Yeah, this changes a lot.
That means that he might be very eager to look for an exit.
He went rook e2. I don't know about looking for an exit. I think people underestimate just how you know, Boris, you know, he tends to trust his assessment. You know, if he feels he's doing well here, and he finds something, I mean, 40 seconds with a 10-second increment, and the 10 minutes you will be able to use on Vishy's
maybe
time.
we should
because
point
Vishy,
that out again, that with every move the players make, they get 10 seconds.
10-second increment is a huge deal. Is a huge deal. And if you feel you've worked out what's going on, and in this position, I mean, it's a very complex and a very sharp position, but still there are 6 pieces on the board. It's not really impossible.
And of course, he's happily thinking in Vishy's time,
Yeah.
who still has 10 minutes.
And I mean, even you know, a rapid player as great as Vishy will have to think in this position. He can't really be blitzing because, you know, it's a position where really, I mean, Vishy is also running a huge risk.
Yeah.
It is no longer a safe position where he can just sort of make some moves.
And both players are strong enough to find the truth in this position.
Yeah, and you know, if Boris feels this is a position where he can and should continue, he will continue.
Yeah.
He will not be looking for a bailout. He will be trying to play the best and seeing. Yeah, Rook C3. He doesn't like knight b4 and bishop b7. I suppose. Well, now I expect to see bishop b7. I think bishop b7 is by far the best move because, I mean, you can play bishop f5, but first of all, it still allows knight b4, and secondly, white has an option of taking on g5. Yeah, bishop b7. Yeah, okay, let's just forget bishop f5 because bishop b7 has been played. Yeah, let's ignore the other options.
And 31 seconds for Boris.
Yeah,
on the
31
clock.
against 9
minutes.
Yeah, 9. Yeah, knight f no, rook d1 he played, I guess. Yeah, rook d1, and Boris quickly took on h4. But now knight takes f4. This is yeah, knight takes f4, and he will have to go back to the 8th. Yeah, this is what we have on the board now. I think, yeah, maybe this is yeah, this has been a change in favor of Vishy because now the attack is going. He can play rook h1 here. Yeah, and so there are still drawing chances, but white now should be better after rook h1 and maybe even some other moves, maybe rook d7. I don't know. Yes, yeah, I misevaluated rook d1 because I didn't realize just how few options black has in this position. I thought he has more options here. Yeah.
So now the question again is, how healthy is this extra pawn? Or how much compensation does black have in active counterplay?
Well, something like rook h1, I think black will need to take on f3 and put the bishop on e4, where it's very active. But yeah, this is a big advantage. This is a big advantage, I think, and also Vishy is ahead. I mean, here now.
The time handicap is.
Yeah, the nine against 30 seconds becomes a huge factor here.
Yeah, this is no fun for Boris to take key decisions. No. Right.
So rook h1, and he went rook c8. This is slightly surprising. He played rook c8. White will need. Yeah, white already took on c8, and he took with the bishop, and he wants to go bishop f5. This is an interesting attempt. Basically, after rook h4, he wants to go rook bishop f5. But I think white can start with. He took on h4 anyway. I was about to say it's possible to start with knight d3 first, but I think he didn't. Yeah, rook h4, bishop f5, and I wonder what the best choice for white is. Well, you can play knight d3. But this allows some rook endgames which may or may not be drawn. I'm really not the world's biggest expert on rook endgames. But you can also go c4 here. There is a very legitimate choice here to just go c4 and try and preserve the integrity of your pawn structure. This will not be easy for Boris at all. Yeah. The point I was making.
Yeah, because his play has to be incredibly accurate.
If you go knight d3, I think his idea is to take on f3, and the problem is it's awkward to keep all this running because if you play king c2 or king somewhere, you get checked from f2, and you either have to go back to b1 or you have to give up on a2. And I think d3 against a7 should be a fairly comfortable draw for black. Although with the king cut off on the 8th, perhaps it's not as comfortable as you would think. So that's one choice. Or you can play c4, to which I think well, black needs to take on a2, not on not on f3. And now, for instance, you have rook h5, to which I think, I mean, mathematically the only move is bishop g6. And you get another version of this rook endgame, maybe a better version, although it's not entirely clear to me. So Vishy now has to pick up an endgame. All of his choices are comfortable, but he still needs to find one. And also, there's this move. There's an interesting move, rook h5. Because if rook c2, no, but you can play maybe even rook c2, king g1, rook c5. And also I think you can take with the bishop. It looks a bit awkward, but I don't see how to exploit it. I mean, the pieces seem to be sort of hanging in the air, but I can't see how to make any progress. I mean, the bishop on c2 doesn't have any good squares to go to apart from g6, but g6 seems to be enough. Anyway, let's see what Vishy does. He is now relaxed because he realized that he weathered the storm. He managed to survive the phase of the game where it even looked like he might be running some risks.
Yeah.
And now whatever he does, he cannot be worse in neither of the scenarios. And
yeah, he's in the driver's seat again.
And and he is now just trying to figure out which of the 2 or 3 options he has here, which all lead to various endgames. Which of his options is the stronger one?
Yeah.
It's a tough choice.
Yeah, he can take his time.
And also, I just want to point out that he could start with knight d3 here, and after rook f3, rook h4, bishop h5, he would have additional choices here of some sort. He could go, I don't know. Although it's very similar to the game, so maybe it didn't really make that much difference. But there was an option of doing this. So let's wait for him to settle on something. Rook h5. At least yeah. I pointed out this was possible, but now he needs to show me. He needs to show me what the idea is. I guess. He wants to start with rook b5 check. Maybe. Rook b5 check. The only square is a8 because you can't go to c.
That's what
and now
happened.
knight e6 or knight somewhere, d5 or e6. This is very interesting. This is very, very interesting. I still don't see the win, to be honest, but knight d5, black will play a6, and now he needs to do something. He can win the a6 pawn by playing rook a5, king b7, knight b4, and he collects on a6. But after bishop g6, you take on a6, black takes on f3. I think this position will be very, very hard to win. Because the h pawn with the bishop will just run incredibly fast. If this is his plan, then the original position must not have been winning, because I think he will. I mean, he realizes that this is not winning. This is barely better, frankly. The pawns on. I mean, if in this position, in the position I have on the board now, if the pawns were already, let's say, on a4 and b4, and the king was already supporting them on b2, white would be seriously better. But here, white needs to spend a lot of time just to get them going. First of all, black threatens rook f4, so you need to waste a tempo on something like rook, I don't know, d6. And black can maybe even play something like rook g3 and just start running. Just h5, h4, and it comes at incredible speed. The h pawn, once it starts running, it runs very, very fast. As you know, the general rule of thumb in chess is 1 runs better than 2.
Yes, yes.
So, whilst white will be very busy. He takes with a knight. Maybe this changes something. This also allows king b6. Now, I don't know if black needs to play king b6, but black can start with king b6, and after b4, he can think about a move. But Actually, maybe you can even play h5 here. Knight c5 check, king b6, and before. The problem is rook a6 check threatens the bishop, so you will have to waste a tempo here on something. I don't know. But you don't actually need any of this. You can just take on f3.
He took an f3.
Yeah, he does take on. I will. Clocks being what they are, I don't think there's any particular need for me to be moving pieces on the board, because they will be changing much faster than I can show lines. I think this should be closer to a draw than to white spin, but with the 4 minutes against 20 second situation, this will not be trivial for Boris. With equal time, I would think this is very, very close to a draw.
Yeah, because he's a very experienced
he's a very
player.
good defender, and also objectively, I think Black has you know, a lot of resources. Black can try and you know, try and give up the bishop for pawns. There's all kinds of counterplay connected simply with the h-pawn, and I think rook g4 shows what Boris prefers.
Exactly, he wants to run with the h-pawn.
Yeah, Boris is preparing to go h5, h4, and I mean, once the pawn starts running, white will have to get seriously distracted by it.
There it goes.
Yeah, king g2, h5.
You cannot ignore that one.
So, yeah, knight d75 maybe. Knight d75, rook g2, king somewhere. Yeah, this is what's
what he did.
yeah. King b7 will be played now. Knight e5, king g2, and king somewhere. But still, bishop will go somewhere. I don't know, e4, f5, or somewhere. And the moment the knight leaves the queen side, it becomes almost impossible to push the pawns forward.
And he hesitates and he moves it to c3 instead.
Yeah, that's allowed for those of you who might think whether this was an angle shot. It's allowed. While you keep the piece in the hand, you can choose whatever move you like.
Did he go?
Bishop e8, and now the knight will go back to those squares 93. But yeah, h4, and.
But you don't.
The optimists in the Russian booth are saying he will end up playing rook against rook and bishop, but I don't think that's very likely. But now actually the bishop has to be careful, because after bishop g6 but I think bishop g6 probably is fine. Maybe even bishop c6. Yeah, bishop g6. The point is knight f4, rook g3 check is kind of awkward. White will need to find a square. This has to be a draw objectively, but
time will play a role.
Time is a huge.
Fishy has more than 4 minutes, and Boris is down to
factor.
28 seconds, and that's not a very comfortable feeling.
And also, you want to have a knight in a situation where either you or your opponent might blunder something. You want to be the one with the knight.
Yeah.
No, but now even h3, I think. I quite like h3 or bishop c2 actually. Yeah. Bishop c2 and a3 is hanging, and if you change the rooks, it's just a draw, because the h-pawn will be too much of a distraction. I think
his only problem is that he has 20 seconds to solve this.
I think Boris realizes that bishop c2 has been played. I think he realizes it's a draw now, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to make any mistakes. He's sort of checking and rechecking stuff, but no, I think he knows that he's saved the game by now.
And in case people wonder, I mean, Boris is an extremely good endgame player.
Yeah. Boris is very solid in endgame. He went rook h5, but okay, now he will play rook a3, rook h4, and okay, the game will continue for a bit. But frankly, if you remove the bishop and the b pawn, you are not winning this position against Boris. You're not winning against pretty much anybody, but against Boris, you're just there's nothing there.
Well, that's remarkable. So we see another escape. Don't think I'm running ahead of things with
no, it would be tragic if Boris lost this. And I mean, the way to lose this is to blunder one of your pieces.
Yeah.
That's how you lose this position. That's the one and only way at this level
Yeah.
To lose this is to just blunder one of your pieces. No, I mean Vishy is correct in playing on because he's not even aiming to win the bishop. He is aiming to, maybe create some confusion, give some checks, and play against the 11th, the 18 seconds. But I mean, we all know this is a draw. Vishy knows it, Boris knows it. There is no doubt.
And now all of you out there also know it.
Yeah,
It's
it's just that Vishy feels that how did this slip?
yeah.
And this it got away from him twice, frankly. He had an almost winning position around move 20, and then Boris, I think, slightly misplayed his position when he had the rooks on e2 and f2, and maybe he had better chances there, better choices there, not chances. And once again, bishop f5. I thought bishop b3 was the point. Yeah. No, in a position like this, yeah, I think Vishy now is justified in playing on because there's huge nuisance value. But yeah, that would not be good if he didn't draw this. Yeah, this is let me just what I think is the position. On what? He didn't give check. The position was b5. Boris went bishop f5. This is very strange. Bishop f5, rook h6, bishop g4. And he didn't give a check on h8 here, on h7. He had this, look at this, rook h7 checking, b8, and he could go knight b4 here. And this now really has proper nuisance value. Probably still a draw, but I mean, this would not be a dream scenario for me. But instead he went, we'll see now, he went something else. I think the game continued bishop f5, rook h6, bishop g4, and in this position he went rook f6. I don't know what Boris replied. Boris made some move, and Vishy played rook b6, checking a7 rook somewhere. I'm not sure where the bishop is. I'm sure bishop. Okay, he went rook f5. Vishy played checking a7 rook g6, and Boris played bishop f3. Okay, once the bishop is on a long diagonal, this should be a fairly straightforward draw. Rook g7 check, king b8, and now knight b4 is possible once. No, it's not possible. Knight c3, yeah. But yeah, now the knight is cut off. The white's choices lay in positions where the knight was not cut off, where knight has jumps, and now, yeah, bishop b7, king c4. This is what we have on the board. This is now very, very drawn. I mean, game will continue for a while, and I'm sure if Boris was white and Vishy was black, game would also continue for a while. It's not just Vishy disrespecting his opponent.
It's not against any etiquette or whatever.
No. In this position, you can imagine how black can get mixed up and get nervous, and people make mistakes in the simplest positions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would take a pretty big mistake for this not to end in a draw.
So he goes back to f3.
He goes back to f3, and I guess Vishy will play king b4 because the only way forward is to go king a5 at some point and start threatening some king b6 in some positions. But what?
Did he put it here?
No, there's something bizarre going on in my demonstration board, but
yeah,
that's not what happened.
But Boris, he was, yeah, okay.
So Boris occupied the 7th now with the rook, and of course rooks were not exchanged, and the knight came to c5, and yeah, he will get tortured here for a bit yet. But this is slightly unpleasant because you will not get the chance to get rid of your bishop. At this point you start wishing for an opportunity to give the bishop for the pawn, because rook against rook and knight is rook against rook and bishop is a draw, but you can make...
And his time problem becomes,
make a
I mean,
mistake.
he has to move quickly now.
Whoa, that was made on 2 seconds.
Oy, 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 oy.
This was made on 2 seconds. This is now, this is
This is
properly nervous.
Yeah.
This is not ideal because he had 50 seconds and with increment, he needed to make like 5 moves in a row fast, and he would have more than a minute, and then he would feel comfortable. It's difficult to see exactly what the position is, but yeah, you can blunder some jumps here. I'm sure the table bases would tell us this is still a draw, but this is now tricky. From the practical point of view. Yeah, hands are oh, knight e6, knight d4 might actually be winning now. This is not. Yeah, this is now very critical. And king b6. I think this might be winning for white now. Well, it's a pity we can't really. We'll get this. We'll get there in a second.
We'll get this soon, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is now winning. And rook b8, yeah.
He resigns. Does he resign?
I think he does, yeah.
That's a dramatic finish to a very exciting game where Anand got a winning position, then spoiled it, and Boris was fighting very well, seemed to save the draw, and then in the end game, with a lack of time, he slipped after all.
Yeah,
This is a... And the situation is Boris Gelfand is down 1 point now. Vishy Anand, the world champion, is leading 1.5 after 2 pretty dramatic games.
Yeah,
and there's additional drama for Boris because he has to sit down for the next game in 10 minutes from now.
Yeah, and for the viewers who are wondering why I've been saying non-stop for the past 10 minutes that this is an easy draw, it is if you manage the time. And once I saw him make a move on 2 seconds, I knew he was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, because then you, in fact, essentially you stop thinking.
Yeah, you just, and also the pressure of the World Championship must really be getting to you at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes a huge factor.
Yeah.
And the point was, when he put the bishop on the long diagonal and everything was under control, he had about 50, I think that they showed us the clock at that point, and he had about 50 seconds.
Yeah.
And with the 10-second increment, I assumed he will make some moves in the next, let's say, 5 to 7 move span. He will make some moves really, really fast, without really, I mean, perhaps, without thinking, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that would give him a cushion to work with for the future. Now, instead of which he tried finding best moves, so to speak, and he went, severely down on the clock.
Yeah.
And once White starts making some kind of progress, and you have to make moves sort of entirely on the increment. When you go below 10 seconds and you're playing on the increment, and also you actually have decisions to take, this is not fun.
Yeah, and it's in fact the Alberters are very kind to Boris right now. They haven't started the 10-minute countdown yet. They are first arranging everything for the next game. In the next game, when Boris has the white pieces, and in fact he is in a must-win situation.
He pretty much needs to win this game.
Yeah.
He's,
so this
playing for a win against Vishy with the black pieces is.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. Nothing is impossible, but it's unlikely.